last name. It took me a year to change it.
Really?
It used to be Mitchell. That's easy.
That's easy. Mitchell's
You
great.
can spell it. You can say it.
I love it.
Pattok.
I love it. 2 L's, Mitchell.
You got it.
Yeah. So we're here today with Heather Pattok, and work comp attorney.
You got it.
Based out of West Palm Beach.
But we handle cases all throughout the state of Florida.
Handle cases throughout Florida. So first wanted to ask you where you're from originally.
Youngstown, Ohio.
Youngstown, Ohio. So you're the coolest thing from Youngstown, Ohio, I imagine.
I would think so.
Yeah, nothing too cool out of there.
Some cool things did come out there. LeBron James came out.
He's from there?
No, outside. I think of Akron.
He's
so
from
which
Akron,
is like 45 minutes away from us.
okay.
So not too far.
You're comparing yourself to LeBron on the podcast. She's on the podcast for 2 minutes. She's already comparing herself.
I wish I was that like that.
Okay, cool. And then you have 2 children.
I do.
Like
2
10-ish?
girls. Yep. One's just turned 10 and the other one turned 8. So 4th and 2nd grade.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, my son is 9 and my daughter's 8 now.
Yeah.
So it's fun years. So cool. And when did you come down to Florida?
Well, I went to Florida for law school. I did my undergrad in Hofstra University, which is in Long Island.
Hofstra. Wow.
Yeah. And then I was sick of the cold and the gray. And so I'm like, I need to get some sun.
Mm-hmm.
Applied to Nova. Got into Nova. Loved it. Best 3 years. I loved law school. I've always wanted to be a lawyer. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed college, but law school is really when I found my footing, and everything that I loved was happening. Nova's a fantastic law school. Mm-hmm. Loved my time there. And then I stayed. I took my first job in West Palm Beach doing insurance defense for workers' compensation.
Okay.
Realized quickly I did not like working for the insurance companies. Mm-hmm. And then I jumped, and then I started doing claimants, injured worker side. Love that area. I'd like to help people as opposed to necessarily denying things through the insurance company. But what that taught me was as to how to evaluate cases on both sides. You know, you have the perspective from the defense, what they're going to argue, how most likely they're going to argue their defenses. And then as the injured worker claimants attorney, I'm able to see both sides and then prepare my arguments better.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. And so you have your own practice?
I do. Yep, the law offices of Heather L. Pattok, PA.
Love it. Love it. So, is that tough for you to juggle 2 kids, young kids, with running your own business? You know,
I feel like that's a very good question for all parents, moms, dads alike. It's rewarding to be able to be your own business owner. It's great to be able to be there for your kids as well. Mm-hmm. But it's a full-time job working, and it's a full-time job being a mom. But yeah, it's definitely hard to balance no matter where you're working or what you're doing. But you do it.
I made the assumption that you are the primary caregiver because I give my wife primary responsibilities. I was gone all week last week. I was at the FJA workhorse seminar that they have in Orlando, and I was gone Monday to Sunday. I had another conference right after that. It was back to back, and I came back, and then I was gone again another day. And I'm like, the funny story, my daughter said yesterday that she missed me, which she doesn't. She calls me Larry. She calls me Harold. And she calls me Abe, but she doesn't call me Daddy. And she said, I missed Daddy yesterday. But it turns out it's just because she wanted the password to get into her game website that she likes. Yeah.
Roblox?
It was, it's a math game called Prodigy.
Yes.
Math. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. She was upset because she didn't have the login. And apparently I would have the login.
You're Mr. IT.
I'm Mr. IT in the house. So yeah. So cool. So, tell us about your practice. You just handle work comp claims, injured. You represent workers who are injured on the job.
Correct.
And need either medical care or an attorney to help them get compensated or just to protect them, to protect their rights, right?
Absolutely. A lot of times people don't realize what their rights are. Mm-hmm. They go to work. They don't even realize there's workers' compensation insurance for them. So they'll go. They either won't report the accident because they don't want to. They're embarrassed. Or they do and they don't know where to go. So they go out on their own and they use their own health insurance because they don't even know what workers' compensation is. Mm-hmm. But the state of Florida mandates that all employers have insurance if they have 4 employees or more. Or if it's a construction industry, if there's more than 1 employee, they have to have insurance. Okay. And they are responsible for paying for your medical care and paying you for your lost wages when a doctor places you on a no work or a light duty status. So Very easy to get benefits, unless it's being denied, then we have to fight for it. But yeah, they're entitled to those benefits.
Okay. And so what do they pay lost wages? Let's say I work for Publix. I'm in the deli section.
Yep.
I lose a finger on the machine.
Yikes.
What do I get in terms of what could you do to help me if that happened to me if I was a worker?
Sure. So basically you would consult with our office and we'll see what the insurance company is or isn't providing you. Okay. So we tackle it as what's been done, what needs to be done. If they haven't done anything, they're supposed to send you to a doctor. And then if a doctor places restrictions on you and the employer can't accommodate those restrictions, then the insurance company steps up and pays you those lost duty wages. The way they calculate those wages is based on the average of the 13 weeks before your accident, what you received in pay. Okay. So just take the 3 months before the accident, excluding the week of which the accident occurred, divide it by 13, and that's what's called your average weekly wage. Okay. That number is set in stone.
So for somebody who's salaried or gets an hourly rate,
$10 an hour, 40 hours a week, his average weekly wage is $400.
Okay.
So if the doctor says, you lost your finger, but you actually can't work because this is really close to the accident, you're going to be on what's called no work. So you can't go back to work. You can sit at home, recover, and recuperate, and the insurance company pays you 66 2/3 of that average weekly wage. Okay. The reason why they do it is just a statutory law. It's considered non-taxable income to you. Oh. So they just take 66 2/3, and that's what you're going to get when you're on a no work status. But let's just say the doctor sees you in a month again and says, okay, you're healing. Let's get you back to doing some light duty. Maybe no lifting more than 5 pounds because your injured finger, you're still recovering. Then they drop you slightly to a temporary partial rate, which is 80% of your average weekly wage. And then if you go back to work because they can't accommodate your restrictions, they'll deduct those earnings from you that you worked at Publix, and then they'll times that difference by 80% to give you the remainder if you meet that. Okay. Sometimes the job can accommodate and say, listen, I don't have any light duty for you. I'm sorry. You got to sit at home. Fine, you sit at home, the insurance company pays you, and it's just 80-80 formula. So 80% of what you're making times 80%, and that's your rate. So it sounds confusing because of the 80-80 formula, but that's just the formula that Florida has. It ends up being slightly less than a no work status, slightly less.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Somebody's injured on the job. They call you, they get a consultation with you. You say, hey, you were injured on the job. Your employer's paying for all the benefits, medical care. Is there anything you can really do for them at that point?
Yeah, absolutely, because you can do anything at that point. Even if they're giving you medical, you still want to have an attorney to make sure that the medical that you're receiving is the correct kind. A lot of times doctors prescribe certain benefits like x-rays, MRIs, physical therapy, and the insurance company gets the prescriptions for those benefits, but then don't do anything with them. It just sits on their desk. Okay. So we're there to make sure that the benefits that you're entitled to, the medical treatment you're getting from the insurance company is actually given to you by filing petitions with the court, making sure that the insurance company is actually responsible for paying for your benefits. And sometimes the doctors don't recommend certain things, and then we have to conference with the doctors to say, hey, this seems like this guy's a surgical candidate. Why aren't you recommending surgery? Hey, it seems like injections would be appropriate at this point. Why aren't we recommending that? So you conference with the doctors to make sure that you're getting the maximum medical treatment you can get and the appropriate medical care for each case that we represent you for.
Okay. So a lot of this sounds like, I'm an employee. I don't want to rock the boat.
Sure.
I'm worried I'm going to lose my job. I've gotten phone calls from people before, and they had a dual thing. They had an injury case and they had a work comp case. And the guy said, listen, man, I got a criminal background. It's not easy for me to get a job. But he had a huge tire blowout while he was changing the tire. Partially his fault, partially his employer should have never let him touch that tire because he was an absolute idiot and wasn't trained to do that. This is a massive tire on a commercial vehicle. Like, that's a mechanic's job, not the guy who's driving it. But anyways, he got a massive laceration. I don't want to do anything against my employer. And I said, dude, his arm was grossly lacerated. He couldn't use his bicep. There was a massive tear on his bicep. People don't want to rock the boat. Do you rock the boat? Do the employers get upset?
Sometimes employers don't understand, or they take it personally, that an injured worker is trying to get the medical care that they're entitled to receive. The state of Florida requires that employers have insurance for them. This is just an insurance company paying for your medical treatment. There's nothing personal about it. But they get scared because they think their premiums are going to go up or whatever. But Florida statute 440.205 actually prohibits retaliation or discrimination. You can't fire somebody because they made a claim and they try to get workers' compensation benefits. That's another lawsuit that the employer can actually get sued for. And that does happen sometimes, where they will come back into work and they'll get retaliated against, harassed. Sometimes even employers will say after the accident, I can't even tell you how many times this happens to me. It didn't happen at work.
Right.
Go to the hospital. Tell them it happened at home. You don't want to do this. You'll lose your job. You can't do that. You're intimidating somebody, you're harassing them, you're making them file it in like a fraudulent claim and saying, hey, this happened somewhere else when it didn't, just to try to skirt around getting workers' compensation. So an employee is absolutely protected by law to pursue those benefits and not have any retaliation against them.
Okay. So you just reminded me of a fun case that I had. It was a work comp case, but it wasn't.
Okay.
So
love those.
Yeah. So the guy, I think he was Guatemalan descent, and he didn't speak any English, and he was working as a employee of a subcontractor. He was here illegally. He was working as a subcontractor. He was working for a subcontractor of a legitimate company, a general contractor. So I guess what they do is, these big companies, instead of hiring the illegal person directly, they get a guy and they say, hey, look, you're going to hire the illegal people. You're going to be Subcontractor Inc. And I'm going to hire you, and you're going to hire all the illegal people, so that, you know, the guy at the top of the company doesn't get in trouble for violating laws. And he says, oh, I didn't know, my subcontractor did it. So anyways, this guy, I forget his name right now, but he was such a character. He was freaked out about getting deported. His employer told him, I will get you deported if you put a claim in. Now what happened, the guy was actually sawing off tiles with one of those cutters, and he removed, not him, but his boss had removed the safety on it so that you don't cut off your fingers, and he cut off his finger. And I have a video of him. He's holding his hand. Blood is squirting out of his hand. And they took him to the hospital in the back of the truck. But before that, they spent 2 minutes debating whether they should go to the hospital or what. And like, while they're doing this, the video shows blood squirting out, and his friend was videotaping the whole thing. It was gross. But they just dropped him off on the back of a pickup because he was bleeding everywhere. Dropped him off at the hospital, and they told him, if they ask you where this happened, just tell them you were working out of your house and you cut yourself with a saw. And they dropped him off. And months later, this is the funny part, months later, he's wearing a red Donald Trump MAGA hat. And I go, I can't remember. He had a unique name. I can't remember right now. But he goes, dude, if I'm wearing this hat, nobody's going to question my status. And he was very serious, because this was when, Donald Trump was in office. A lot of people self-deported because they were worried about, are you mad? You just kicked the table.
No, that was my heel.
She just kicked the table.
So angry.
Just joking. But a lot of people just left the country because they're like, it's better to leave than to get deported because it's harder to get back in. And I was like, okay, man, wearing a red MAGA hat. I said, all right. I knew his status, but whatever. It was just he was a character. We ended up litigating that case because there was no work comp immunity because there was no insurance. So we litigated it, and we got him a nice result. He lost this tip of his thumb right here. We got him a nice result. What in a typical work comp setting?
Yeah, that happens all the time. I think I have about 4 of those going on right now.
Fingers?
Well, yes, that also. No, 2 of those. But the subcontractor, general contractor, are you an independent contractor? Are you an employee?
Yeah.
The law in Florida is that if you are an employee and you're an employee of a subcontractor, and that subcontractor doesn't have insurance, you can climb the ladder and you become a statutory employee of the contractor who does have insurance. You can climb sub, all the way to the general contractor. And whoever has insurance first, that's where it stops on the ladder. So you can keep climbing until you get coverage. And then by law, the employees of the subcontractors become the employees of the general contractor. So there's always going to be somebody to go after in most cases. There's always going to be somebody I can get after. It'll take me a few months to find out who Jose worked for, who got picked up on the side and is paid cash, to follow the paper trail, because it's always cash, but who they worked for and what job site it was. And I start at the top and I go to the bottom. So I do the reverse because the top guy doesn't want to be responsible. It's going to be somebody lower, and then we find out who it is.
That's somebody.
But
yeah, it's crazy how the construction industry works here in Florida. Because these guys are the most vulnerable for an injury.
Completely. And we can't turn our backs on them. They're the workforce of our entire state, all undocumented workers. I firmly believe that. They are building our state. You cannot turn your back on them when an accident occurs. You are responsible for them. So it does not matter what your status is, whether you're documented or undocumented. You are entitled to workers' compensation benefits. And I hear it so often that people are afraid or they're scared about claiming a benefit, but they're protected and they're entitled to it.
So let's talk about that. I heard a little birdie told me that if they, let's say someone is undocumented, they don't have a work permit to work here in the state of Florida, in the country. They get their application for insurance benefits and they put down a fake social. Can they bring a claim?
Yes.
Is there a downside to that? Like, what's
the law is that most likely the employer will know that number is not valid. They'll still hire them, still pay them, but they're not paying taxes on that number. They're not reporting it. So we cannot turn our backs on that, and you can't raise an estoppel argument that's saying you're not entitled to because you used a fake social to get a job. We actually just went to trial on that a couple years ago and we won. So what happens though if you give a fake social to the hospital when you're taken there and dropped off with your finger amputated? You say it happened at work, but you give them that fake social. Then you're precluded from getting workers' compensation benefits. So you never, ever, ever want to use a fake social security number ever to the insurance company, to a doctor, to a hospital, or anybody, because that's when they can deny it for fraud.
And you could just write NA?
Absolutely. You can put 000-00-0000. And even the hospitals have their own codes when they don't have their own social security number. They put like certain numbers and it's known and signaled on their end that they don't have a valid social. And you can't refuse treatment for somebody who doesn't.
At the hospital.
No,
not
at all. Yeah.
And I guess let me ask you this. Can you tell me about one or two of your more interesting cases that viewers may a case a viewer may find interesting, or maybe a case that was impactful for you as an attorney, rewarding?
So similar to your story with the guy and the tire, I actually represented a wonderful, wonderful man before his accident. Pillar of the community. I mean, he was sign language for church. He was a coach for sports for his children. And he was a bus driver from Palm Beach County. Palm Beach County decided to contract with Goodyear Tire, and they would service all of the buses. So the bus was in the shop. They were servicing it, changing tires and doing what they want. Unfortunately, the gentleman who was servicing the bus tire got distracted. He took a cell phone call, left servicing the bus, went on the phone, came back, was obviously distracted, and forgot to screw the lug nuts tight.
Wow.
Fast forward the next morning, my client comes to work. He gets on the bus. He starts driving. He gets on 95. And the speed of the tire at this point is so fast, and the lug nuts are not properly secured. The back tires all fly off.
Wow.
And it was a multiple vehicle car pileup. Tires were going across the median, 5 car. I mean, it was ridiculous.
Wow.
And he had horrible injuries. So traumatic brain injury, multiple surgeries, neck hernias, everything. So it took years and years of treatment to finally settle his case. We got a great recovery, but also you had a workers' compensation accident because he was in the course and scope of his job when he got injured. And then you had the side case of the motor vehicle accident. Okay. And then you had this
against Goodyear.
Yes.
Okay.
The contract between Goodyear and the county, because who's really at fault? Workers' compensation is unique in the sense that it's a no-fault state. It doesn't matter if you caused your own, you can't, it doesn't matter who caused the accident. If it was sudden, unexpected, and not intentionally, like, I go out and I purposely slip and fall to create an accident, then that's going to be denied. But if it wasn't really anything that was just crazy and just innocent, then you're entitled to get treatment.
Okay.
So what happens in that case is that they were able to sue the tortfeasor, and who was actually responsible for it? The guy who forgot to put on the lug nuts because it wasn't an employee of Palm Tran who was servicing the bus. So you can go after there. So we worked co-counsel cases to get a very good recovery with workers' compensation, and then he got a very good recovery for the other case too.
For the tire blowout.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's what happens with tires. I mean, they can cause huge accidents.
Right.
You don't think so. And then subsequent, we learned that the county decided to put on like these color-coded lug nuts so that you can see if it's actually fastened or not, so that would never, ever happen again. Wow. So it was good because he was such an amazing person, went through such a horrible accident. His life changed like that in an instant through no fault of your own. And you're just going to work. And then the subsequent measures that they do to make sure that that really doesn't happen again, because it was awful. It was just awful.
Does the bus driver, I know this sounds kind of obnoxious, but does the bus driver have a duty to check the tires?
Yeah, but think about the lug nuts. They're on, but they're not tightened.
Okay.
How would you know? Okay. So that's why they instituted that color mechanism, like a plastic piece over on top of it, so that if it's this way, that way you can see it and identify it. Okay. So simple things that are a great fix that you don't know until something happens. How do we fix it?
Right.
It was able to be done. So it was a good full story circle where it's like an unexpected accident happened through the unfortunate act of somebody picking up their phone when they shouldn't, and then doing what we need to do to get them better, and then fixing it afterwards.
Okay. Awesome. That is an incredible story, and it's always, it's nice that it has a kind of like a positive ending. Yes. That it doesn't, they instituted something so that this doesn't happen again.
Yes.
Great. Okay. Yes. Tell me about another case. Have you ever had a case where maybe the medical care that the person received was just so poorly managed?
Yes. Yes, I have one right now. To the point where the doctors even write in their note that the provision of the insurance company delays is negligent.
Oh, wow.
So the amount of time that it passes to actually get what needs to be given to this injured worker, she was struck by lightning. So she was working. Oh. She walked out of the building to go somewhere else at a jail.
She was working for a jail.
Yeah. Okay. Well, she was like the nurse area. You know?
Oh, okay.
So she was outside and got struck by lightning.
While she was on the clock? So work comp covers lightning strikes?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're on the clock.
So think about this. Anytime you're on the job, it's sudden and unexpected, right? Doesn't matter if a tile fell down above us right now.
Yeah, you don't wish that on you.
No. But I did represent a lady from the Breakers who was in the kitchen and the tile fell down. Wow. So it happens. It happens, like sudden, unexpected. So she's on the job. She's working. She's in the course and scope of her employment. She gets struck by lightning. And now she has serious issues.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Speech, brain, heart, palpitation, everything. So, the delay in provision of some of these therapies for her to speak, to get back. Did you ever watch, I don't know, I think it was on the Today Show. There was like this one woman who like woke up and she's had a British accent. She was just a normal person, and then all of a sudden she woke up one morning and she started speaking in a British accent.
That reminds me of a Richard Pryor movie. He woke up white.
Yeah.
He woke up white. That was a movie from the 80s.
Really?
Yeah, it was a hilarious movie.
Yeah. So,
or wait, maybe he went to bed white and woke up black. I don't remember. Something with the lamp. It was obviously a comedy, but yeah. So she woke up with a British accent.
Yeah. So this lady woke up with, and it was some kind of a traumatic incident that would happen to her that like literally started making her speak in a different accent. So my client, when you speak to her, I'm like, are you from Jamaica, England? I can't tell. She's like, no, I'm from Chicago.
Wow.
And ever since this accident, these tremors and everything, her speech is so impacted that it sounds like she's from a different country.
Wow.
Yes. So, the doctor.
This is your lady.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so the doctors even say like, we need to get this. We need to get this. This is the third time I've said this. This is the fourth time we've said this. So what we do for workers' compensation, we're able to file petitions, multiple petitions with the court each time we get a script, so that way we can go to mediation, we can go to final hearing on it, and help expedite those benefits for her. But the care can be very much delayed. And sometimes on the other side, which I think was what you're trying to get to, is what happens if the care isn't good? What happens if you're going to these doctors who are getting paid at fee schedule that aren't providing the best care? Can I go to a different doctor because I'm not happy with that one? So the unfortunate part about workers' compensation is the insurance company picks and pays for your medical care. So they pick and they pay. You don't have the right to just doctor shop, so to speak, and become dissatisfied and go somewhere else. You're stuck with that doctor. You only have a one-time change in physician. Once you use it, you lose it.
And once you use it, they can kick you back to a different doctor after 30 days?
Nope.
No? You're stuck? Okay, you can stay with that doctor.
So basically, the prior doctor gets deauthorized. You can't go back to him anymore. So you better make sure you hate him.
Okay.
Because the next doctor you go to that they pick might not be any better. So you need to make sure. Because once you use it, you're done. The other one gets deauthorized. The new doctor gets appointed. Now, the only time you can pick a doctor from the claimant side, the injured worker side, is if they fail to identify a doctor within the first 5 days of written notice. So let's just say we fax it over on a Friday and we don't hear anything until 7 days later. Well, good. Great. Now I get to pick the doctor and send you where I want you to send you. That's only one time. Or let's just say, I like the doctor, but he's not really doing what he needs to do. I can hire what's called an independent medical examiner.
Okay.
That doctor will not treat you, but will render opinions about what you need in the future and what we can do. And then we can try and circle that back in. Okay.
And a lot of people, they get injured at work. They're scared to go to the hospital.
Yes.
If they're injured at work, it's sudden, unexpected, not intentional. You're saying the hospital bill will be paid for by the work comp insurance company.
Yes. So
99% of the time.
Yes.
Little legal disclaimer there in case anyone's wondering.
Yes. So you can go to a hospital, you can go to a clinic, wherever the insurance or the employer directs you initially. Or if the employer fails to provide medical treatment, you can go anywhere you want under the self-help provisions because your employer knew but failed or neglected to provide you with medical treatment. So then you can go wherever you want, and as long as it's related back to the accident, the insurance company would have to pay for that treatment.
Okay.
But unlike, I think personal injury, right? You have to go somewhere within the first 14 days.
That's to get your PIP benefits to qualify for PIP coverage.
Yeah. So
you need to see a doctor within 14 days, and it could be a medical doctor, DO, dentist, a chiropractor.
Okay, so it's pretty
emergency related.
Yes.
It's pretty broad.
That's good.
Yeah.
So in Florida, you don't have to see a doctor day 1, day 2, day 3, day 5, nothing like that.
Okay.
The employer just has to have notice of the accident.
Right.
Sometimes you don't know that you're hurt. You think, I could just brush it off. Like, I hurt my back, but it'll go away. And it doesn't.
All right.
So as long as the employer knows within 30 days of the accident, then you'll be fine.
And, so I've had employees here who've been in a car accident.
Yes.
And the first thing I do is tell them, hey, obviously we got to report this, it's an auto insurance claim. We're personal injury lawyers. We're going to see what we can do. But I tell them, hey, let's open up a work comp claim. So do I need to do that as an employer to open a work comp claim, or just have it documented of the incident?
You have a duty to report the claim to the insurance company. And the workers' compensation is primary compared to all other insurances.
Even health insurance?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Because what happens is your health insurance is going to claim a lien on your workers' compensation settlement and your proceeds, because workers' comp is primary. You really are stuck in a bubble, so to speak, and you can't pierce that bubble and go out where you want and do what you want, because by law, you're supposed to be in the workers' compensation system.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And, I guess what's the biggest work comp settlement monetary wise that you've ever had?
It was shy of 1 million.
Wow.
It was shy of 1 million, which in workers' comp land,
it's massive, right?
It's massive because you don't have pain and suffering or emotional distress damages.
Okay.
And those are your big ticket items. Your future wage loss earnings, your pain and suffering, your emotional stress. Oh, that's specifically excluded from law. We can never get that for an injured worker. And it's terrible and it's awful. And I hate that law.
But that's a trade-off.
That's it.
With work comp, right?
And remember, with workers' comp, not only do you get your settlement, all of your medical is paid for. So you don't have to negotiate any liens.
Okay.
You think about that. You don't think about that. An injured worker doesn't think about that. They only think about the dollars that they're getting. Okay. So you might only be getting, let's just say $500,000, but your medical care was $1.2 million. So think about how much the insurance company has spent on you.
Right.
So in this case, what happened was he was a roofer. He fell off the roof and he became what's called an incomplete paraplegic. So he was from the waist down, he couldn't walk, but through therapy, he can probably walk to the door. So you got to have aid and attendant care. So it's very small movements. It's called an incomplete paraplegic.
Okay. Wow.
So he fell from a roof. He was rendered an incomplete paraplegic. And part of the reason why is because someone tried to move him when he fell.
Oh, after they fell on the ground, his spine was damaged and they moved him. Wow.
They tried to do that. So that was like the worst thing.
You wait for the ambulance. Yeah. Wow.
So that took a while to settle, but we did. And that was a good case because we were able to prove and argue that this gentleman is what's called permanently and totally disabled. So he's unable to work for the rest of his life because he's been rendered an incomplete paraplegic. He can walk, but not far distances.
Can't really work with that walking ability.
No. Well, the argument that they presented is, you can put him in a wheelchair and he can answer phones. He could be a telemarketer.
Okay.
He could be this, that, or the other.
Right. But he's a roofer, not a telemarketer.
Exactly. He doesn't have transferable skills. He doesn't speak English.
Okay.
He doesn't have the education. He didn't go to school in his home country.
Right.
So what we do is we argue that he's permanently and totally disabled. And so by law in the state of Florida, they would pay you until you're 75 years old. That's it in Florida.
Wow.
So you only get paid until you're 75. And it's at a rate that's outlined by the law. We calculate his life expectancy, and we say he's never going to work. No vocational expert's going to place him anywhere. He doesn't have transferable skills. So we project out what those future wage loss earnings are for him, and then his medical care, his assistance for a vehicle, so an operated vehicle that he can drive. So we send him to certain doctors who can do a life care plan for him. Okay. And then they help us establish what's necessary for his life to get the settlement for him. Other times what we do is that when we're working with personal injury attorneys or there's another companion suit, we will take a reduced amount for the workers' compensation case. So let's just say the case value truly is 1.2. Settle it for $600 because we're able to waive the lien for the personal injury attorney so that he can maximize the 1.7 million on that end. Okay, the pain and suffering and all that. All that, yeah. Okay. So we'll take a lower amount of settlement. That way we waive the workers' comp lien so they can't come after you to reduce your load. So that way it maximizes the claimant's recovery from both pots. So he will have already had his medical paid for. He will get his lost wages and his settlement through workers' comp plus then his personal injury side too. Okay.
Wow. So that guy with the $1 million settlement, almost $1 million. fell from a roof.
Yes.
Can't really walk. They argued that he could sit in a wheelchair and work behind a desk.
Yes.
You had a trial on that case, or?
No, we were able to settle that case.
Okay.
Yeah. So with workers' comp, we can't go to the judge and get a settlement.
Okay.
There is no statutory right to settle a workers' compensation case.
Okay.
So if we can't negotiate a settlement, we can't make them pay a certain amount, and they can't make my client accept a certain amount. There is no right to settle a case. I can't go in front of a jury. There's no juries in workers' compensation.
Okay.
All I can go in front of a judge for is if there's an outstanding medical benefit that hasn't been provided, like physical therapy, surgery that's being denied, or lost wages because they said your client's not entitled to him because he failed to come back to work and he voluntarily limited his own income. Or your client committed fraud and we have surveillance of him doing cartwheels outside and doing crazy work when he's supposed to be at home, which that happened to me one time. I had a client. Has this ever happened to you when you get totally slammed? I'm at mediation. I'm up in Orlando, and we're doing openings, and I have no idea that the defense attorney, and it was like so theatrical, so much drama. He just takes out his laptop, opens it up, turns it around, and presses play. I'm like, oh, here we go. So here I have my guy who's supposed to not be working, injured, so injured. He's doing a job, driving a bus. Why are we talking about buses so much? So he's driving a bus in Orlando, and he's the bus driver. He gets out of the bus, poses with the pictures of the girls and the kids who are on the field trip with his hands around them, giving the peace sign, and then gets under the bus and starts slinging all of their suitcases onto the bus. So I have a guy who's supposed to be injured, not working, doing other work somewhere else, posing for pictures, throwing suitcases underneath a small little crawl space.
Wow.
And that was it. That was the end of that case.
Wow.
Yes.
I had a case like that once. The guy was going to get a surgery the following week, but it was the end of the month and he had to move out, and he had a pregnant wife. It was him and his buddy, and they helped move their stuff out. And it's not a wealthy guy. He couldn't afford movers. He barely afforded the moving truck. And I got it there. They did a surveillance video of him throwing the couch over his balcony, which, first of all, total asshole.
Yeah, don't
Who
do
does that? You know, someone could be down there.
Yes.
Throws it off of his third story balcony of the apartment he was in, because the dumpster was on the back end near there. And he's just lifting it up over his head. Like Hulk. Yeah, like just the Hulk. Throwing stuff. And throwing it over the balcony rail. And the following week, he was going to get a surgery. Oh. And, you know, I commend the opposing counsel for saying, here's the video footage of him. This hurts your case. Now, realistically, look, I mean, people got to move. They got to move, you know? You know, and who knows how he felt the day after, right? He may have felt really bad, severe pain from all that moving. But at the end of the day, it looks bad in front of a jury, 100%. Right? It looks bad in front of a judge. Yes. And, you know, we were able to settle it nowhere near the full value of the case had he not been lifting a sofa over his head. Yes. Who knows? Maybe it was like a very thin, cheap sofa, but nobody's going to know because he threw it out. But we were able to get it settled. So sometimes I know what you mean. The clients can be their own worst enemies. I had another client who said, you know, I have this herniated disc. I can't do anything. It was a woman, and she was lifting more weight on bench presses and squats than most men could lift, more than I could. And I mean, she was jacked. And you know, we were able to settle it. But again, you know, she said, oh, but I could lift more weight if I didn't have this issue from the slip and fall. And I was like, I'm sure you could, but everyone on the jury is going to be 300 to 400 pounds. And they're going to look at you and say, wow, you're pretty fit and healthy. You should be thankful for what you've got. And they're not going to award her any money. So, you know, again, this is not like most of my clients. This is the 1% that you're just like, oh my gosh, this guy. But it's really hard to tell. Yeah. And so sometimes the surveillance will hurt the case. And then I'm sure, how many cases have I had where they did surveillance on my client, saw them hobbling along and said, don't, settle this case.
Yes. Or it's consistent with their injuries.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in your side, do you get produced the surveillance, or is that considered privileged until they want to use it at trial?
Yeah. So it's work product. They don't have to give it to us. Okay. It's their own, they pay for it and they give it to us when they want to, if they want to.
Right.
I know there was a case that I referred out for litigation. The guy, he didn't even speak Spanish. He spoke a dialect of Mayan, like a small dialect. Nobody really could talk to him except his relatives. He's an older guy. He worked in landscaping. And for whatever reason, in the deposition on the injury case, he said he had a neck surgery. His work comp doctor told him, you don't need surgery. You're fine. You're healthy. Another doctor that he saw, who in my opinion is a phenomenal doctor, said, you have severe pain. And he had severe pain and he said, I could fix it with the surgery, fixed it. But the guy, everything was great about the case. It was a really big impact. The truck was on its side. It was a good case. But the problem with the guy was he lied and said he can't do landscaping anymore. It could have been a language barrier. I don't know, because he didn't speak Spanish. He spoke a dialect of some Indian language in the Mexico area, and some Central American country. I don't remember where he was from exactly. But long story short, he lied, said I can't do landscaping, and they had him on an 8-hour workday, and his case got dismissed actually for fraud, for lying in a deposition. And it's sad because it was a big impact. It was a serious surgery that he had. He reported severe pain throughout his treatment, but where they got him was he just lied in his deposition for no reason. And that's
and that
it's
happens.
Unfortunate. Sometimes people get nervous.
Yes.
Sometimes people get scared. But I think from what I talked about with the attorney that we referred the case to, he said, Abe, they gave him like 5 ways to get out. And he just kept insisting over and over again that he couldn't do it.
Yes.
And it was impossible for him to do it for 15 minutes. And the guy went on, and it's sad. But, the guy, if he hadn't told that lie, his case would have resulted in a very big settlement.
Yes. So every time I do my pre-depo conferences, I always go over that very thoroughly, because they will ask you multiple ways, at least 6 different questions. Same question, different ways. They give you every opportunity to say yes or no. And so when you give the answer no, that's no. So you need to be very careful with what comes out of your mouth in a deposition setting, because it's being transcribed, it's a court reporter who's taking everything down, you're sworn under oath, and it will affect your case. Some people, I feel like they don't really understand the questions, even though they're very simple and clear to us. Have you ever injured your back before? No, that's a lie. Or have you ever hurt your back before? No, that's a lie. Everybody's had their back hurt. Everybody's taken Tylenol. Anybody who's pregnant has back pain, So everybody has that. But they read into the question. They think they know what they're being asked when it's actually not. So I make sure I really talk to my clients about that before a deposition, because it can really negatively impact your case quickly. Unfortunately, even to the doctors too. The doctors will ask the same stuff. And then there it is in black and white in the medical records, but you had something before.
Yeah. Those work comp doctors can be the worst sometimes.
They can, yes.
Yeah. I remember I go to the work comp conference in August in Orlando. Yeah. Have you ever been there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great conference. This year it falls on my birthday.
Oh.
So we're going to be doing this podcast over there.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, so it's going to be cool. So I was there, and this doctor, I hear him, he goes, to who are you? And the person says, oh, I'm an adjuster. And his immediate canned response was, if you send me patients, I will make sure that your patients get back to work immediately. I don't care if the guy comes in a wheelchair. I'll get him whatever he needs to get back to the office and back to work. And it's kind of sick, because the insurance adjuster is the one who refers people to the doctors.
Yes.
And they want a doctor who's going to send them back. They don't want a doctor who's going to help someone who's going to fix them or cure them or do anything other than the legal standard, which is probably get them back to work.
Yes.
So,
yes. And that's the tough part. That is why workers' comp is such a very difficult area to be in as an injured worker, because the insurance company picks and pays for those doctors.
Right. And if they don't like the result that they get, they're going to send them to the guy that they do like.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. If we have an undocumented worker and they are getting paid under the table, cash, can they open a work comp claim?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if you're paid check, cash, direct deposit, whatever. You're entitled as an employee to get workers' compensation benefits. So it doesn't matter how.
Okay. So just another weird factual scenario here. What happens if somebody is injured at work and then shortly afterwards, let's say a month, a week, a year, they want to leave the company or they're fired unrelated to their injury claim? Can they still use their work comp benefits?
Yes, absolutely. So basically, you're entitled to two things in workers' comp, your medical and your wage loss benefits. If you were fired from your job or if you quit your job, that gets into certain defenses that the insurance company can say, hey, we don't need to pay anymore for you.
Okay.
Because if you've been fired for misconduct, they don't have to pay you those lost wages if you're on a light duty status.
Okay.
If you're on a no work status, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
They're going to pay you because it doesn't matter if you're employed or not. But if you're fired, for cause, they can assert that. Or if you quit your job because a better opportunity presented itself, then you would not be able to get paid by the insurance company because you will have deemed voluntarily to have limited your own income. There was a job within your restrictions and you left. But most of the time you're already getting a new job and new pay that's higher and better.
Okay.
So you would be disqualified from that just based on sheer math because you have to meet a threshold to get paid by the insurance company.
But medical care is still
Medical
covered.
care continues until the doctor places you at MMI, which is maximum medical improvement, the point where the doctor says, hey, listen, you may not be perfect. You might not even be back to where you were before the accident, but you're as good as I can get you. At that point, you could go back to the doctor. You just have to pay a $10 copay.
Okay. And what's the 1 year rule?
You have to treat with a doctor one time every year to keep your case open.
Okay.
So if you don't do that and the statute of limitations has run, because it's been 2 years and you haven't been treating with the doctor, then you're done.
Okay. And you have a 2 year statute of limitations.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So last question, crazy question. Let's say Abe has a shoulder injury, pre-existing injury. I get a job. I'm in the Amazon warehouse and I'm lifting a heavy box, shoulder, severe pain. I have some kind of tear, pops out, rips off, who knows. Does work comp cover that?
So the statute says that your injury and your need for medical care has to be more than 51% related to your accident as compared to any and all other causes combined together. So any pre-existing injury, motor vehicle accident, slip and fall, sport injury, anything you've had in your prior life. As long as the doctor and workers' comp said your need for shoulder surgery is over 51%, good. You're good. You're able to get it.
They'll pay for it.
But if the doctor says, that's a 50-50 case, even though 50 is a huge number, you're not going to be able to get it through workers' comp because it has to be over 51.
Okay. So does the decision land with that doctor?
Yeah. And then if that doctor doesn't give me a favorable opinion, I got two other cards I could play. I could either roll the dice and go with one-time change, which I'm not going to do. I'm going to send you to an expert who's going to evaluate you, not treat you, but evaluate you and render an opinion.
Okay.
And then hopefully he would say it's over 51%. And then you have a conflict of opinions between the authorized treating doctor and my IME, my expert. And then the insurance company is going to hire their own expert to say what they think, and then we're going to have to go to trial. And then in workers' comp, let's just say you have a battle of the experts and we don't know who says what and who's more credible. The judge can, or the parties can request an EMA, which is like the expert medical advisor who's going to render the opinion as to who goes.
Is that like an arbitrator of medical decision?
No, it's just a doctor who gets on the list. And
his
renders
decision,
his expert,
her decision is binding.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Okay. And we didn't even ask about how you get paid. How do you get paid on this?
So we're contingency.
Is it a contingency?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the great thing about workers' comp is that, when you're injured on the job, most people are living paycheck to paycheck. They can't hire somebody to make sure that they're getting the benefits that they're due and owed. So in Florida, all injured workers would sign a retainer agreement that's based off of contingency. So if we don't win any benefits or if we don't secure anything or we can't settle the case, you owe us nothing.
Okay. And then when you do get paid, do you keep a percentage or do you charge your attorney's fees to the work comp carrier?
Can be both. Both. So you can do it through a percentage based off of the settlement, or if I go to trial or if I secure benefits, then now the current law is that they have to pay us an hourly rate.
Okay.
So based on the hours that we spent to secure that script for physical therapy that they denied, or the surgery that they didn't provide, and the judge says, yeah, you got to pay for it, then we get hourly rates.
Okay. So
the claimant does not pay for that. The
and they don't pay for
does
that.
not pay for that.
Under
That
any
comes from the insurance company who's paying us an hourly fee.
Okay, so it's very similar to a car accident. If we don't collect money, the client doesn't owe us money.
Yes.
I had one client say to me, I had a $100,000 offer for her, and she said, I'm firing you. I don't want you to work on my case. Tell the insurance company to mail me the check. And I said, I go, excuse me? She goes, well, you said if you don't get me money, I don't have to pay you. So just have them send the check to me. It's not coming for, I said, ma'am, you're out of your mind. And we put a lien on the case for our fee, which we earned through our hard work. And strange. People are weird. I am so
glad that has never ever happened to me.
People are weird. They get crafty.
Wow.
I'm like, the fine print on the contract you sign is a little more specific than that.
Yeah.
I'm breaking it down easy for you to understand, but we have a contract and I get paid when this case settles because I did the work.
Yes.
People are strange.
That's tough too, because, unless you hire an attorney where you give them a retainer, say like $5,000, and every time I work on it, I'm billing at $350. Your clients don't call you that much because they know every time they pick up their phone, they're going to have to pay $350 an hour for talking to them.
Right.
When we're doing these contingency cases, sometimes people don't appreciate or understand every hour, every minute that we spend on your case is real work. We're attorneys. We're doing a job for you and a service for you. So it's very difficult. Thankfully, that never happens to me. I don't know how I would handle that.
I'm too nice to people. They think they can take advantage of me. I don't know.
That's
I
rough.
don't know. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So, all right. So if people want to get a hold of you, they're injured on the job, they want to find out more information for a free consult, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, they can check me out on social media, or they can go to my website at www.pattocklaw.com, and we will look forward to speaking to you then.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being on the podcast. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate you.
You too. Thank you. You're awesome.